I am here to tell you guys about how a composer from the southern tip of Africa lost 1,000 bloody battles but won a war. My name is Ben Skitter, or just Ben, and I'm here to tell you guys about how my journey of creating an authentic sonic world for Manor. A little bit about me. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, and I'm a senior composer at an awesome place called Pressure Cooker Studios. My colleague and co-composer on the score, Dan Caleb, he was trawling gaming subreddits one night and some crowdfunding sites looking for our next gig, and he came across this game, and he was like, whoa! And so what is Manor? It's a breathtakingly beautiful medieval city builder and conquest game created by Slavic Magic. It's got very, very firm roots in historical accuracy, and Greg, the developer, insane dude, like he was just, this one-man army building these insane visuals by himself, like it's his first attempt at creating a game, and we were just like loving what he was doing, and we just really wanted to be involved, and a lot of love letters to him late at night, and eventually he did send us a brief for music, and it said this: I'm really looking for something fresh and organic for the soundtrack, with real instrument players, not just sampling. The textures of the soundtrack need to be unique, something that hasn't been done to death. I also want jam sessions and improvisational elements to the tracks that authentically captured the folk traditions of the period. Oh, and there's no budget. We really loved what Greg was doing, and we wanted to solve this problem for him. We wanted to be involved, what can we do? And so we, put a package together of a bunch of things that we did in the past so we can hear some different vibes from us. And we mentioned to him that we've got this friend who happens to be a little bit of a medieval music enthusiast, and we sent him a video of our mate, and this is him. So this is Simon Radcliffe, aka Fuzzy. We call him Fuzzy. He is not just a dude who runs around in his bedroom playing weird instruments. He has his own studio in Cape Town. He's a renowned score mixer and mixing and mastering engineer, and he formed a core part of our music team from the beginning, and he also did our final mix for the score at the end. Greg was like, yes, let's do this. Love my new friends from Cape Town. Let's go for it. And yeah, great, awesome. So what now? We got to put a team together. We're in Africa. What do we know about medieval music? Who can we get to collaborate with us? And so we put together our first kind of core team. We had Dan on the left, who was the co-composer with me, and Fuzzy, who you just met. He introduced us to a dude called James, who's a multi-instrumentalist, plays a lot of folk music and a lot of medieval stuff. And we had Vincente, just a long-time collaborator with us. He had this super old period violin with sheep gut strings that we were like, yeah, we're going to record this. This is going to be awesome. And then me, I figured, hey, I could hum Green Sleeves. I got this, easy, jokes on me. Green Sleeves is not even a medieval song, it's a Renaissance song. I found that out later. This just shows you what I knew about it was dangerous. But anyway, so we started experimenting. These are just some of our early recording days. James picking up his harp there in the corner. We loved his harp playing, and we sent him down this path, and we were like, record more of the harp. It's so gentle and pretty and beautiful, and this is what we want. And yeah, so I would spend a lot of time at my own studio writing a lot of original stuff with my virtual instruments, and particularly a lot of cinematic music, because for me, like, Manor is not just a medieval game, but it was also a beautiful game. It's also like this visual experience. There's so much detail to the environment, like the rustling trees and the puddles in the road after it's rained. It's just like the film composer in me. I just wanted to tell that story. And so this is something that really resonated with Greg as well. And so it kind of became our core vision for the score, to have this two-part sort of cinematic experience, but super authentic experience as well. So one of the very first experiments that we felt was truly successful was Dan and Vince playing around with our period violin. They came up with this really, really simple 2-note theme, and we were like, yes, okay, this is going to be our first theme for the game. Let me play it to you. It sounds like this. Yeah, so we absolutely loved this theme. We were like, wow, this is so simple. It's so iconic. It's cinematic. It's ancient. It's like we called it the Manor Lord's Call. It's like a hopeful call to action or a story of new beginnings unfolding. You know, that feeling that you get when you open up your favorite builder and you've got like a clean map and you're like, cool, I'm going to design my settlement now, and you know, kind of that feeling that you get. And that's what it gave me. And Greg also absolutely loved this. And so we decided to take this and flesh it out into a full track called The Peasants, which we then uploaded to YouTube. It became a sort of a preview piece for the score to build hype and awareness and, you know, community involvement and that kind of thing. We would then take our first Manor Lord's Call theme and we would implement that in little bits and pieces into the score, you know, as we went as well. Yeah, where are we now? So, yeah, praises from Greg. These are some of his first comments to us on our Discord channel, and you know, he was really excited. We've done our first 36 minutes of music, and we're ready to move on. And you know, these were some of our praises from our fans of YouTube from the Peasants track, and everyone was loving it. And we were like, oh yeah, boys, we are on a roll. We are ruling. We got this. You know, Greg kind of went silent for a while. He went into like developer cave mode for like a couple of months, you know, to like really get down to developing. And yeah, like things kind of changed. Like 6 months later, he stuck his head out again and he was like, guys, I've got some feedback for you. Yeah. This is an actual picture that he sent us. And yeah, I mean, Greg had an opportunity to really test this music for an extended period of time, which was necessary. He needed to do that. And a lot of it wasn't working for him through that test period. And yeah, I mean, it was yeah, some of the things that he said was, you know, this track may be fixable, sadly goes on mute, you know, breaks my heart. Too modern sounding, very lullaby-like, sweet and tensionless. If you listen to the start to the end, literally makes you fall asleep. Try it. There is finally some tension, but quickly killed by the dreaded sleepy harp. Feels like a magical forest with fairies. Not the mood we're going for. Yeah, so just devastation, just like everything we did was just like crap. And it was, super self-doubt, imposter syndrome, just taking over. Am I the right person for this job? Do I know what I'm doing? Clearly I don't. Green sleeves is not good enough anymore. Yeah, so, but yeah, I mean, there was this big, terrifying silver lining, and that was the dev knew more about medieval music than we did. And, you know, he's spent so much time in medieval land, and that included listening to so much medieval music, like internalizing this stuff so much that, you know, and he also has ears as sharp as a razor. Like, this dude is like a composer. Like, he's got his own virtual instruments, and he would like program things and send them to us. Be like, hey, this is what I meant. You know, we're like, he's like some weird genius, jack of all trades character. You know, so yeah, the silver lining for us was, you know, we could really collaborate with this guy. We could really learn from this guy, and he became sort of like a core member of the music team. You know, we would consult all the time, and yeah. So moving forward, that's kind of. So let's look at some of the feedback, some of the issues. Too modern, too sweet, and too fantasy-like. These were sort of our main takeaways, things that we needed to fix. So how do we solve this? Battle 1 was to the music is too modern. So in order to understand how to fix this, we got to kind of look at what is the difference between medieval music and modern music, right? The very first thing that comes up is rigid grids, bar lines, fixed tempos, predictable structures, right? And medieval music, you can see, it's just like blah, music, and that really does tell the tale, So let me play you guys some examples. Here's a like a track that I wrote super early on in the process with this kind of predictable mindset in the beginning, built all on the computer, and you guys will hear. Yeah, so it's medievalish, it kind of puts us in that space, but it's kind of very predictable and kind of obvious, it has this sort of computery feel to it. We took this melody, we liked the melody, and we found a way to use it and a strategy to use it to make it more authentic. So this particular edition, we removed click track altogether. We were like, free form, give it to the musician, let them perform this melody, make it their own, interpret it, and this was kind of the result. And you can hear that little crackle in the instrument and that little imperfection there. And removing the grid and just kind of allowing it to flow in this kind of organic way really changes the whole mood of it, Let's go for another example here. Same kind of thing, great medieval melody, kind of got this structure, box thing about it. Yeah, so boxy, kind of, again, sets the right mood. I'm going to play you guys, again, the same melody, final version. It's also on a, interestingly enough, and this is kind of why I wanted to showcase this to you guys, it's also sitting on a consistent tempo, but you guys can feel how much different this is. Aha, right. Now we're getting somewhere. Now there's more randomness to it, like little pockets of musical consciousness, all holding hands, but each with their own personality and own little story. And that is authentic, and that is how they would have made music in those days. So it's less scripted, it's less jammy. It's more jammy, definitely not less jammy, it's more jammy. Cool, so our next big difference between modern and medieval music is monophonic and polyphonic music. And I see a lot of nods in the, basically polyphonic music is how we kind of write with a more modern way, harmonic structure, I would call it, sort of like these chord blocks, like pick up a guitar, you play C, A minor, F, G, and you'd kind of take these chords, you repeat them, and then you build a melody over that becomes your music. Medieval music didn't really work that way. It was a lot simpler. It had a monotone, a single note that established the key of the music, and it was like usually held by a drone on some kind of instrument, and this drone, you would just build these melodies on top of this drone. And that's not to say there weren't any chords, there were some basic chord movements, but all these chord movements would all kind of work around this drone, and that's what it was all about. I recorded a melody for you guys just on a violin, without a drone, and then I recorded it with a drone, so you guys can start hearing the difference. Cool. Right, so the first one sounds like a pirate playing a tune in a tavern. Second one sounds a bit more like a minstrel playing a tune in a tavern. So we're moving in the right direction here. But it's still not right, because we need to put it on the right instrument. So let's hear the exact same thing on a legit medieval instrument. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now that is authentic stuff. Cool, so let's move on to our next big battle that we had. The music is too sweet. Now, I was having a chat with my mate James over there, and actually at the Devcom, and I actually wanted to share this story with you guys, because he asked me, he's like, but why were you gravitating initially towards writing more sweet music? Like, what was the reason for that? And I really had to reflect on this, and I was like, I think it has to do with my interpretation, or my understanding, and my experience of medieval music from popular culture, from films, from TV games. Like, it's usually this jovial or this kind of sweet or up-tempo or happy stuff. It's never really anything like dark and hectic, And I think also because the game was visually so beautiful for me, I also wanted to create beautiful music, And so the sweet harp was what really resonated with me visually in my head. But there was something missing here. There was a trick, and that was that medieval times were hard. It was difficult times, and we needed to tell that story as well. And sweet music wasn't quite doing that. The other very interesting conversation we had with Greg about it is whenever we would record something and there was a squeak or something that kind of a mistake in the recording, or it was recorded really harshly, we'd hate that, he'd love that. He'd be like, that's the stuff, For us, we'd be like, but it's so unpolished, it's so imperfect. He's like, well, you know. So we quickly started realizing that our pursuit as these modern composers for perfection and for polished music all the time was kind of counting against us when trying to pursue like real authenticity. Because medieval music is imperfect, it's unpolished, it's raw, it's free from so many rules. Yeah, so getting back to the sleepy harp, you know, it kind of opened up a big realization for us. And medieval times were hard, you know, and I was trying to imagine, okay, what do we have that could maybe, I don't know, like how am I going to capture this? And I turned to him one day and I said to him, what do you think a peasant sour breath smells like? Sounds like, smells like, sounds like, musically. Like what, you know, the idea of this peasant like with his primitive tools, you know, like peril and toil and danger and sickness and bandits and, you know, I mean, personal hygiene not very high up on the priority list, right? Like what instrument would capture that? And this became a thing. We needed more instruments. We needed more medieval textures. And we believe that our answer is going to lie in a bowed instrument, something raspy, something harsh. So we needed to expand our music team. Greg actually, you know, reached out to his community and he found this dude called Enrique Pasteur Morales there on the right-hand side. This dude is from Spain. He's this multi-instrumentalist, medieval multi-instrumentalist, and he's just insane. And we had a couple of friends, long-time collaborator with us from London, Peter Davidson. He's also a conductor, and in the end, he landed up conducting all our music. And his wife, she's a professional cellist, and she actually has a viol da gamba. And it's actually the medieval predecessor to the cello. So we started digging in, we started recording a lot of these things, and it's interesting how these things happen around this time when we hunting for the peasant's breath. My buddy Dan was, you know, busy playing his round of Manor, and yeah, he had a dead peasant that he screen grabbed and posted, and we all laughed at him that he sucks. But look, I wasn't doing any better. My peasants were also dying in the winter, right? But this is perfect. It's perfect because it like inspires us to write some really, really dark shit, you know? And so, yes, Reginald, we named him Reginald, son of Borin. And he inspired us to start writing some serious winter music, you know. And here's a demonstration of something wintry, and you know, to go for his funeral. All right, now we are telling the story of Manor Lords. You know, this was Sarah Davidson on her viol da gamba playing that lead instrument there. This sounded like an ancient struggle. This sounded like the peasant's breath to us. And this kind of led us to our first official game mechanic. You know, the summer versus winter thing. I mean, this seasonal changes is a big thing in Manor Lords. You know, wintertime is tough. Your peasants die from starvation and from cold, and you got a plan. You got a stockpile, and you know, and yeah, it was, and this opened up this mechanic for us. We were like, cool, maybe we need some summer music. And Greg pointed out that he's missing something. He wants a bit of a side quest. He sent us a track, like an actual medieval track that him and his buddies listen to when they go to the bar or the pub. They get drunk. One of them's going to whip out a phone. One of them's going to start playing the song, and they're all going to start like trying to sing along. So this particular song, they have this really sentimental value to him, and we're like, man, we just got to do this song for him. And what better way to lighten the mood back up with a tavern jam, you know? And so we started doing that. And I'll play you a little, just a little bit of our version of the instrumental version of this. Yeah, so this also opened up a very big realization for us, and that was, what better way to take our audience to true authenticity than to pepper in actual medieval music that people would have listened to back in those days. I mean, as a composer, you want to write original stuff, you know? But the ask for this particular score was authenticity, not originality. So yes, there would be lots of originality, but it was an authenticity over originality kind of priority for us. And yeah, cool. Let's move over to battle number 3, which was the music's to fantasy like. This one is kind of tough. Let's think back on our core kind of vision here for the score, a cinematic score that firmly rooted in the authenticity of medieval times. So if you look at that, you could probably assign that to a whole bunch of fantasy scores description as well. Like beautiful orchestras, medieval instruments, period instruments. We weren't doing a fantasy game, we were doing a historical, accurate game. So how do we create the difference? Let's listen to a version of, again, a super early cinematic version of something I wrote. Okay, so it's lovely. It's maybe for an elven town, or, you know, a forest full of fairies. Perhaps it's definitely got that vibe, and it's great. But there's something about it it's inspired by medieval time. It's not a historical medieval time. That's the difference. And you know, there weren't string orchestras back in those days, so this was a little bit of a hurdle to get over when trying to do this. So, you know, I wrote lots of music like this, and I would just keep sending them over the wall to him. And eventually, there was a particular piece that only had these kind of warm cinematic strings right at the end of the track, and he was listening to this, and he was like, yes, this end is immersing me cinematically into my world. But as soon as you put medieval instruments on top of it, it puts me in this fantasy place. So we needed a system. We needed a 2-lane system where the two cannot really mix. We needed cinematic music and we needed medieval music. So, how about a call and answer? How about strings play something, medieval instruments plays like the same thing, right? Bit of a problem there. In order for me to write real cinematic, immersive music, I need to be able to have the freedom to be the modern composer and the cinematic composer, to write those kind of movements. And medieval music can't do that, and it shouldn't do that. In order to do the medieval stuff, we have to stick to the limitations of the time and of the instruments. So they cannot do the same thing, not really. So the plan became to kind of write some strings, send it to our collaborators, have them be inspired by some part of the melody, but more specifically, the feeling and the emotion that the cinematic music is trying to convey. and pair the right takes and the right improvisations with that cinematic music. So we've got some communication between the two still. Let's have a listen of an example of this. Right, so we've got the same kind of push and pull. We've got the same pulse. We've got the same emotion on these two opposite worlds. It's the same feeling, two different times, now and then, but they're telling the same story. The drone was also super useful here. I would write all my strings to come back down to the drone so that I could join it with the medieval drone, and that became the passageway. And that made things quite a lot easier. Yeah, so in summary, understand the differences between modern and medieval music. Use drones, simple medieval harmonic practices. Tell the story of hard times and tell the story of good times as well. I should have added that in there. The Peasant's Breath. Infuse some medieval music to enhance the authentic experience, and the two-lane system wearing two composer hats. Great. It's all said and done, except for one thing. The score needed something very, very important. And we cannot talk about the score for Manor without talking about the choir. And from the very beginning, we wanted to do choir, but with financial constraints, choir is tough. Choirs, they're expensive. And great, so you can use virtual instruments, but they're very limiting, and they severely, particularly limit us to want to do it in the most authentic way possible. You see, medieval choirs, sacred choirs, was church music, and it was very, very central to medieval life. And they were chants, they were words, messages to God, messages to connect us to the divine. So at the epicenter was this message, and that informed the melody. And as a modern composer, you sat down and you want to write these beautiful choir harmonies, melodies, and you can do that until you're blue in the face. It's the wrong way around. It needs to be the message first. So we kind of needed to record a choir in order to nail this authenticity side. And church is in Manor Lords. It's a central piece of it. There's tithe, there's loyalty, there's faith are themes in the game, and luckily for us, Greg came into a good chunk of change. The game was doing well, getting a lot of traction. This helped a lot to put something into the development of the game. And one of the first things he said to us was, "Hey guys, where are we recording choirs?" So that was amazing, and he's like, "If you guys will record anywhere, where do you want to record?" We're like, "Well, that's easy. We'll go to S Studios, please." In London, I mean, it's a studio built inside of an old cathedral. It's like the promised land, And the London people, they nail the sound, and they're the right people for the job. And I mean, their string players are world class. It's just would be amazing. What? Excellent. Okay. So we started frantically writing choir music, and I would grab actual chants from 14th, 12th to 14th century, and I would start writing these melodies, and again we would draw actual compositions as well from those times, what they actually would have heard in the church, and pepper that into our score to really nail that authenticity feel down, you know. Let's, I'm going to play you guys just a piece of our title music. This also featuring Grace Davidson, our soprano soloist, absolutely a world-renowned singer, and she's incredible. Also featuring our choir that we recorded at Air Studios. Yeah, so we were really, really quite happy with that result. Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, in closing, I guess I just wanted to talk about something a bit more personal. I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't the right composer for this job. Definitely not initially. I needed to break down some walls. I needed to become something and someone that this project needed. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for Greg to give me this opportunity, to push me the way that he did, to turn me into something that I needed to be for this, and I've learned and I've grown a lot. And, you know, like, I think the biggest battle was internal battles, like the self-doubt, the all is lost moments. And whenever you're faced with that as a creative, I've now learned to read that as a positive signal. That's when you hit that brick wall, I'm onto something. I'm about to break through and I'm about to grow. It's tough, but, you know, that was my biggest war that I won. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, if you guys want to get in touch, it'll be great. You know, we at Pressure Cooker are really keen to tell your next story with music and sound. And yeah, so you're really welcome to reach out, or we'll catch up afterwards, I'm sure, and have a chat. But yeah, I guess we do have a couple of minutes for questions. Yeah, awesome. I think it was first. Go for it. The implementation. So Greg, being the all-time control freak that he is, did implementation. The type of game that it is didn't require a massive amount of complicated implementation. I think the most complicated thing for us was the battle music, where we had to export some stems with different layers, intensities, and we designed a bit of a system for him to do that. And yeah, but for the most part, it's winter, summer. He triggers a couple of winter tracks. In summer, we trigger, yeah. Yes. Sure. Yes.
So how did that happen?
Okay. Okay.
Second question is
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, look, we told Greg that we want to be a part of this project, and we're passionate about what he wants to do. We have all these studios are our studios, so it doesn't cost us anything. So, we've got other things going on. We do a lot of films, we do a lot of commercials, we do a lot of stuff with TV. So we could afford to spend a little bit of time on a passion project. And that's basically what we did. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think like each soloist and each collaborator has got their own trick, and I mean, a lot of these people, some of these people we've been working with for years, so the process is pretty much smoothed out. We know how to roll, and some guys were remote and some were not. Some were in Cape Town. Those were easy. The remote guys, the Enrique, and we were kind of rolling the dice a little bit, but we did really search, and we went through a lot of musicians, and we did find this dude. We're like, okay, and he was incredible to work with. I mean, he was so easy to work with. Like I would send him files, and he would just send files back, and they would just be like, awesome, and there were changes, of course, there were notes from my side, but he would just upload them, he would just sort them out. And he was also a really big fan of the project and of the game, so he was really passionate about it as well. And I think that was kind of key. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Great. Yeah? Hello. Yes. Mm. Yes. Yeah, so like firstly, you know, as a film composer, and I've written a lot of cinematic stuff, and writing cinematic, modern-sounding kind of orchestral choirs is one thing. It's very much like writing for strings, or any kind of other part of the orchestra for that matter. But sacred choir specifically has got its own thing, and so yes, there's a part of me that wanted to make it my own. That particular track that you heard was my composition, and it is informed by the Manor Lord's call. Baba, Media Vita. So I had the melody in my head, and I wanted to tie that as my title sequence back into the game, but then I also lent from Hildegard von Bingen, these great composers from those times, and so it became like an amalgamation experience of both of those things. Yeah. Awesome. Rad. Cool. Cricket. Thank you so much, guys.